It was a gray Sunday morning when the wind carried the soft sound of a woman's voice through the quiet hills of Maplewood Cemetery. The notes trembled, rising and falling like a prayer too fragile for the world. Emma Callahan stood before the simple headstone that bore her husband's name, Daniel Callahan, 1983 to 2022, her trembling hands clutching the bouquet of white lilies she always brought. Every week for 3 years she came here at exactly 10 a.m., rain or shine, and sang the same song, Can't Help Falling in Love. It was their song, the one Daniel used to hum while making coffee or teasing her as she burned pancakes on sleepy Sunday mornings. It wasn't just habit that brought her there. It was survival. After the accident, the silence in their house had become unbearable. The empty chair, the cold side of the bed, the way every photo frame felt like a window into a world that no longer existed. So Emma turned to the only thing that had always kept her heart steady, music. She had been a music teacher before, but after Daniel's death, she couldn't bear to touch a piano. Singing at his grave became her only way to still speak to him. It was her ritual, her love letter whispered into the wind. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps keep these emotional stories alive for more hearts to feel. As the months turned into years, people in town began to notice her, the singing widow they called her. Some pitied her, some admired her devotion. But Emma never cared what they thought. She didn't come for attention. She came because it was the only place she felt close to him. The rest of the week she lived quietly in their little blue house at the end of Pine Street, teaching part-time at the local elementary school and feeding the stray cat that always waited by her porch. Her students adored her gentle kindness, though few knew about the sorrow she carried behind her soft smile. 1. Autumn morning, something felt different. The air was cool and sharp, leaves scattered across the cemetery in hues of gold and red. As she began her song, a faint sound rose behind her. Another voice, hesitant but warm, harmonizing softly. Emma froze mid-note, her breath catching in her throat. She turned around, her heart pounding, and saw a man standing a few rows back. He looked to be in his late 30s, wearing a gray jacket, holding a guitar case by his side. Embarrassed, she stepped back from the grave. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the stone as if apologizing for being interrupted. She began gathering her flowers to leave, but then she heard it again. The man's voice, clearer this time, finishing the line she had left hanging in the air. She stood there listening, her hands trembling, as he sang the final verse of the song. The moment felt strange, sacred even, like the world had briefly paused to listen. She didn't speak to him that day. She couldn't. Her throat felt too tight. But the next Sunday, when she came again, he was there, standing a respectful distance away. He waited until she began to sing, then gently joined in. His name, she would later learn, was Michael, a veteran who had lost his younger brother, Thomas, in the same accident that had taken Daniel's life. He had never known Emma personally, but he'd seen her one morning at the cemetery and recognized the name on the headstone. Something about her grief mirrored his own, and for the first time since the crash, he found comfort in the sound of her voice. Week after week, they met like that, wordless at first, then with small nods, faint smiles, and eventually quiet conversations. They started to bring coffee for each other, sitting by the graves after singing. Emma learned that Michael had been a musician before joining the army and that he'd stopped playing after his brother's death. It just didn't feel right anymore, he said one morning, looking down at the grass. Emma understood that feeling too well. Their shared grief became the bridge neither of them had expected. Slowly, cautiously, she began to sing again outside the cemetery, humming as she made breakfast, softly singing in her classroom when her students asked. Michael encouraged her to return to music, to the joy she'd once found in it. One day, he showed up at her door holding a small keyboard. "You helped me find my voice again," he said. "Maybe this will help you find yours." For a long time, Emma had believed her life had ended the day Daniel's had, but through those quiet Sunday mornings she realized grief doesn't end. It changes shape. It becomes something you learn to live with, something that can still hold beauty. Winter came again, cold and still. On Christmas morning, Emma visited the grave carrying a red poinsettia. As she sang, Michael joined her, his voice strong beside hers. A small group of people had gathered nearby, strangers who'd come to listen over the months. By the end of the song, the air was thick with emotion. One elderly woman whispered, "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." That night, Emma sat by the fire, looking at a framed photo of Daniel. She still missed him. That would never change. But now, her heart didn't feel empty. It felt full of the memories, the love that never died, and the unexpected gift of someone who understood her pain. Months later, the community center held a charity concert for families who had lost loved ones. Michael convinced Emma to perform with him. She was terrified at first, but when she stepped on stage, she saw the faces of people who had all lost someone. As she sang, she felt Daniel's presence, warm and proud, as if whispering, "You're doing beautifully, Em." The crowd stood in silence as her voice filled the hall, clear, emotional, and free. When the final note faded, Emma looked over at Michael, tears in her eyes. They smiled, not because the pain was gone, but because they had learned to carry together. After the show, as the audience rose to their feet, Emma felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. She no longer came to the grave out of sorrow, but out of gratitude. Gratitude for the love she had known, the memories she still carried, and the second chance life had given her through a stranger who became her closest friend. The next Sunday, she visited Daniel's grave one last time that season. She placed fresh lilies down and whispered, "You'll always be my song." Then, as she turned to leave, Michael began strumming his guitar softly behind her. Without turning, she smiled through her tears and joined in one more time. The melody drifted into the air, carried away by the gentle wind, not as a farewell, but as a promise that love, in all its forms, never truly dies. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to support more emotional stories like this. Your engagement helps others find hope too. Special request: comment below. Do you believe love can heal even the deepest wounds? Because sometimes the songs we sing for the ones we've lost become the music that saves someone else.